We grow when we give.
We grow when we give.
We grow when we give.
Nosotros crecemos cuando damos.
We grow when we give.
与えるとき成長する。
We grow when we give.
Welcome to ROG, Return on Generosity, a podcast celebrating generosity at work. Not financial giving, giving valuable time, alternative perspectives, and genuine collaboration. Welcome back to ROG, Return on Generosity podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Cassidy. And today's guest is someone who brings together innovation, heart, and a deep commitment to community, all qualities that beautifully align with ROG. I'm thrilled to welcome Kenon Chen, Executive Vice President of Strategy and Growth at Clear Capital. Keenan is a visionary leader who sits right at the intersection of people, purpose, and progress. His work centers on bringing confidence in real estate decisions in order to strengthen communities and improve lives. His curiosity and entrepreneurial spirit have helped bring groundbreaking solutions to the valuation space, and his influence can be seen across industry think tanks, tech sprints, and national stages. What I appreciate most about you, Keenan, and there's a lot of things here, is your eclectic artistic expression. You are assigned a recording artist, you write, you perform, you produce music, and you're an incredible executive. Welcome to ROG.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Thanks. I am too. This is going to be a lot of fun to learn even more about you. So, how about we start with your background?
Sure. Well, I am a California transplant. I would love to say native because I definitely made it my home. I spent most of my life in California, but was born on the East Coast and grew up studying both music and computer science. So I kind of found my way into tech pretty early, but always had this goal of being a a recording artist um, and thankfully I had parents I think that thought about uh, being able to actually make a living, and so they strongly encouraged me to to study something else in addition to music, and so um, I came out with the ability to get a job in tech and kind of build a career there, and then that led me into housing finance because of people, right? Because of people that I worked with that ended up co-founding what is Clear Capital now, but music has kind of lived on as just part of who I am and how I just go through life. I think that'll never change.
Yeah.
Um, but uh, but yeah, I think I've had this interesting duality in life between something that appears maybe less creative, I should say, or a little cold, if you will. Technology can be perceived as kind of a cold thing, whereas
Mm-hmm.
music is usually, perceived as a warm thing. But I found some interesting ways to kind of bring the two together if you keep the right focus in the center of why, you do certain things, why you employ technology. And so yeah, anyway,
Yeah.
it's been a fun journey.
What are some examples of that? I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, well, the thing that really I think drew me long term into the housing finance, industry, which started my path there started because I was working at a tech startup um, with one of the co-founders of Clear Capital, and we met our other co-founder and now CEO, who had this idea um, for a website that would allow asset managers and capital markets folks to find qualified real estate brokers who knew how to handle listing homes that had gone through the foreclosure process. And um, and so it was a happen chance meeting because of a golf game that I played, and I'd spent some time through in the dot-com boom and crash, building out, sites that were meant to generate advertising clicks and
Mm-hmm.
sites that
Mm-hmm.
were just about, using I won't call them gimmicks, but just ways to generate advertising revenue as opposed to something that was really rooted in like changing the way people live their life, in a more
Hmm.
positive way. So when I got into housing and I got invited to join the company um and I it took a little bit, but I realized, wait a minute, like this is an opportunity to employ technology in a way that actually connects to something that's very human, has a soul to it, for lack of a better word. Um, and and that's what's kept me in this now for 20 something years in this industry, because there's a mission that keeps being important,
Hmm.
regardless of the tools that we're using to create solutions.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. And how do you see your artistic sensibility and passion playing a part in how you lead, or just how you see these services coming to life?
Well, it certainly helps to stay inspired,
Mm,
um, and to stay in a place where communication actually means something, has an impact. So I think part of it is that if I can stay, energized and inspired, then I'm in a place where I can actually, hopefully, impact and inspire others, because I'm coming from a place of being inspired, right? It's really hard
hmm.
to give out something you don't have.
Right.
Um, so I would think that, um, there's this need to kind of constantly refresh and re relearn, if you will, like again and again, how to like find the thing that matters. And like music is this constant pursuit of um trying to find, either through what you're playing or writing or singing or whatever, like find the piece that actually matters, that makes the impact, because there's a lot of
Hmm.
different, there's no right way to
True.
approach that. Just like in business, there's a lot of different choices, but how you look for the thing that matters,
Hmm.
and then you're willing to like try over and again, and keep reiterating and repeating and getting better at it, is hopefully how I've approached leadership, in a way where I keep trying to get better at it,
Mm.
and I keep trying to connect and communicate people to things that matter.
So beautiful. And I love how you're saying you can't give something you don't have, and being inspired and looking for ways to express yourself. And it's also energy creating for you to do things that you love and that you're passionate about. So like a way to sustain energy for a long period of time, part of that needs to be your expression of your own gifts. And I also hear like a lot of authenticity in your approach to leadership, that you are aware of like who you are and what drives you and what you care about, and you bring that in ways that serve others, or you intend to serve others, because you're very people first type of a company and a people first type of a person. So you're bringing these people first solutions to complex tech and financial challenges that real people are facing. How do you define generous leadership in your world?
Yeah, I think I owe a lot of my growth and even the opportunity to thrive. I owe a lot of that to the culture that our company has, and
Mhm.
our founders, and the culture that they created, right? Because culture comes from the leadership, right? It comes from the top. And our CEO and co-founder has created a very generous culture. One of our core values, actually one of our first core values that we kind of had. And sometimes, sorry, sometimes company has core values, and they're like, yeah, that's our core value, we put a writing on the wall. But
Mhm.
for ours, it's our core values were not written at the beginning of the company. They were written many years into it, as just a collection of like, oh yeah, I remember, like, we used to say this at every new hire meeting, or this is something that that our founder says over and over again. Like, let's finally write that down, because that is who we are. And anyway,
Mhm.
so one of those things was, hire nice people, was the first thing that that was there, wherever it leads, whatever it takes, improve the lives of those around you. These are all just statements that kept coming up, and the idea, I think, was that you can't really go after the really big things that you want to achieve if you
Mm-hmm.
don't get the small things right, which is like looking to your left and your right at the people
Mm-hmm.
sitting around you and seeing if there's something you can do to make their life a little better that day. And if you start there with the people that you're responsible for because you sit right next to them, then maybe you'll extend that to the people you're talking to on the phone. Then maybe you'll extend that to the people that are buying your products, right? Having that culture is what's forced me to and allowed me to grow because I have to embody that. I have to represent that if I'm going to lead. I'm not there in any way, shape, or form with where I'd like to be, but it's at least put me on a journey of trying to continue getting better at it.
Mm-hmm. And I think like any good vision, it's like you know what it looks like, and you know when you see parts of that coming together or manifestations of the kind of culture that you're all aspiring to create. But I think just like all of us, we're on a journey and it's iterative and we are learning as we go and we're not going to get it right every time. But I think the desire to get it right and the heart for being generous and generative is really at the core of what your organization stands for. So when you talk about culture of generosity, like what would be examples, like even mundane things that might be viewed as mundane, but are examples of what you mean? Because I do think that sometimes when we talk about a culture of generosity, very often we associate that with philanthropy or financial giving. And I think that is also important. But what you and I are talking about is like the day to day, like I give some of my discretionary time, energy, and attention to people and things just because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly things like giving, both inside and outside the company, like to the community and all of that has certainly been a part of that. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
company has encouraged things like, cleanup days in the towns that we had offices in. Of course, now we're remote, so we're all spread about, but and working with different local, charities has been a big part of the history of it, for sure. But I think one way to think about generosity is about um, exceeding, expectations on what you're supposed to do and
Mm-hmm.
doing things over and above what you're supposed to do. And sometimes that's rewarding people, earlier than expected in different ways. Sometimes that's, being generous with time. I think access to leadership, being generous with our also with how we treat our clients, right? Going above and beyond what's asked for. Um, all that like perpetuates, the sense of like what I think of as generous. Generous is doing more than was more than was expected or required, in a
Mm-hmm.
situation, out of nothing other than like it's the right thing to do, or it's
Mm-hmm.
or it's it's not out of obligation, right? It's out of a desire to actually impact someone in a positive way.
Those are great examples. And I mean, you're the executive vice president of strategy and growth. So, no doubt you're in a lot of situations and events and opportunities where you're networking and meeting new people. I mean, how do you bring that generous spirit to those kinds of environments?
I've been challenging myself lately to try to stay out of networking mode. Um, and what I mean by that, networking mode is when you just enter a hypothetical room with lots of people and you only target who you talk to out of what they might be able to do for you or what that might, lead to next, for your own purposes. And that's the ugly side of networking in my opinion.
Hmm.
Um, what I but it's easy to get into that mode because my job is to spread awareness of the company,
Yeah.
understand where we can help, expand our reach. Um, but I've been really trying at the beginning of this year. I made a goal for myself to spend time, even at conferences and events and things, to just connect with people just because. like know, you know, and connect too with people that share similar mindsets, right? That share
Mhm. Mhm.
um so that when the two of us are talking and or those that community or that group is like interacting, there's a again this idea of like re-inspire and creativity, that like that just starts happening regardless if there's any path that you can see that it might lead to something that will work out just for me or our company. um that
Mhm.
that interaction around a shared um passion or mission has
Mhm.
been so inspiring, to me. And so I've been trying to just carve out time at everything that I go to connect with those people or to meet new people that for no other reason other than, hey, let's talk about the shared purpose and mission around housing. Let's talk about affordability. Let's talk about, ways to make things more fair. And I mean, look, business opportunities always comes out of that stuff if
Mhm.
you kind of trust the process.
Mhm.
But it stops me from looking at people as targets and keeps me thinking about um, how there can be just great, inspiring friendships and
Yeah.
valuable
Oh,
interactions.
I love that because as you were describing that imaginary networking event, I was thinking of it as like name tag networking, where as soon as you walk in, they look at your name tag and they're kind of like, are you a vendor? Are you and they
Yes.
just are assessing like the value of what would it, interacting with you. Is this going to have a payoff for me or not? And you feel it, right? And,
Hmm.
and I'm guilty. I've done it. And so I feel like,
So am I. Yeah.
yeah, I love that goal to have that lens, because then it's more enjoyable, and then it's because a lot of people hate networking, but I think they hate that name tag networking, and they like, I mean, most people like to meet new people. I mean, who doesn't want to meet inspiring, interesting, cool people? Like, most people are inspiring and interesting. So is there
Yeah.
a story from this year that you can think of, again, even if it's just kind of an ordinary example, that you were intentional about meeting someone, and you don't have to name names or anything, but like just like what that interaction was like?
Yeah, I mean, the probably the best story from this year is I went to a, a prop tech retreat. I'm a member of a community called the GEM, a community. It's a community of prop tech founders and executives, um, which is an amazing group. But they put on a retreat this year that was just, um, oh, I don't know, 20, 30 people. And yes, there were some sessions, around things that would be helpful around, what's going on in real estate and prop tech
Mm-hmm.
and innovation and all of that. But the time that was actually the most fun was like playing Jenga, going on hikes and things like that. And um, it it ended up being a pretty amazing time of just seeking to help other people in their business, sharing things with early stage, you know, uh, uh, companies and seeing everyone trying to help each other and all
Mm-hmm.
of that. Um, uh, yeah, it was pretty amazing.
That is so amazing. I love that. And just having fun together, right? And some people like roll their eyes at things like that. But when you're like, yeah, but it's like, it's not about Jenga. It's about the time together and just like laughing and trying to solve a problem that probably nobody's an expert at solving, but you're
Yeah.
doing it together and you're creating community, and then you're having sidebar conversations, and you're really kind of finding people who have similar values or interests, or compatible ones, that just you find there's something about them that's attractive to you, and you're learning about it, and it just opens up new ways of thinking about things, and that's really the goal. So I love that story. So just if we can go back to Clear Capital and just talk about like what you do and who you do it for, I think that would be helpful
Yeah.
for our listeners.
Sure. So, Clear Capital is a real estate valuation technology company. our, as you said in the beginning on our mission, our goal is to enable confident decisions on real estate or on properties, and that involves us giving accurate opinions of value, of condition, of market trends, in a lot of different ways, and we do it with both uh, data and analytics, but also being able to put expert uh, professionals in front of properties or at properties to do everything from inspections to full-blown appraisals. And we work with clients in real estate, in mortgage,
Hmm.
with investors, as well. So, um, our goal has always been to streamline the process for
Hmm.
understanding a property to enable faster decision making and more accurate decision making.
Mm, incredible. And you've been doing this, like Clear Capital has been around for more than 20 years, right?
Yeah, actually, we're moving close to 25 years here. It was
Wow.
founded in 2001,
Oh my God.
um, and been super fortunate to have a long-standing um, healthy company, and we just announced recently that we have partnered with an investment partner with GTCR, and so we're just entering this kind of next phase of growth.
Hmm.
Focus on growth and and accelerating a lot of the innovation and that we've been working on and accelerating our mission. So it's been an exciting time, and we're about to just go that much faster. Yeah,
Oh, excellent. Congratulations.
thank you.
That's so exciting. So, your role at Clear Capital, you're across a lot of different teams. Your executive team, product, marketing, sales, technology, probably a whole host of other ones. How do you personally practice generosity in cross functional relationships and leaderships, especially when you're navigating competing priorities?
A lot of it, and over the years, I've worn a lot of different hats. One hope that I have that I'm able to provide is context, right? Is
Ah,
bringing bringing a lot more of the why
mhm,
um, to uh, conversations. I do, sessions where we just have an open agenda and just talk about questions that people might have about the market or about our customers or about,
mhm,
policies or whatever. So, I end up spending a lot of time in DC, trying to connect with, the with various housing related, government entities to try to understand where the government's going with it, how that affects the market. And
mhm,
so my hope is if I can provide shared context and and connect people to the people we're actually trying to help or the problems we're trying to solve, that we've got great people. I don't have to worry about telling people like how to do things. They know the best way to do things. But if they have shared context, we'll move together more
mhm.
in unity.
That context is everything, right? The why, and you're saying that you're not only learning it yourself, you're sharing it with others. And then that gives people like the reason why, why is this request coming? Why is this urgent? Why has this changed? Why was this dropped? Why isn't this funded? Like all the whys that people don't know about if they don't have that context. And some of it's complicated and ever changing. So for you to be really diligent about how am I sharing what I'm learning to the extent that it's helpful and relevant to what these people are doing, I think that's really great. So, what are some of the ways that you intentionally are creating space for others to grow? I know you're a believer in your own self-development and growth and others. So, what do you do, and like maybe even tactically, what are some of the things that you do to help create that kind of space for others to grow?
Some of it is, bringing people into conversations, earlier, right?
Mhm.
I think it's easy sometimes to have decisions being made and then just communicated out to everyone to then execute on this decision that was made kind of in a vacuum or before someone even knew that something was going on. It's like, okay, we already decided to do this, now go, right? I think
Hmm.
again our whole leadership team I think is really good about bringing folks into the decision making process early, and the more we do that, the more people feel ownership of the outcome, right?
Hmm.
Um, so that's part of it. Part of it is, man, I have such great folks that I get to work with that are long-term, tenured, people. So allowing myself to learn and grow from them, it's got to be, as much as possible, it has to be mutual, right? Like
Hmm.
it has to be a relationship, uh, and so that means that listening, is a big part of it, right?
Hmm.
Listening to where people are um, and being open to hear things that you might not agree with.
So let's talk about legacy for a minute. What do you hope your generous leadership, the one you're living and still continuing to evolve, what do you hope that that inspires for the next generation of professionals in real estate, fintech, and otherwise?
My hope would be that I'm a part of a bridge between the way things are, today and and what comes next. And I think a lot of what is coming next could look pretty disruptive, to be right.
Hmm.
AI is a really strong force in potentially creating, disruption for how how we work and types of solutions, and what's the role of different professions and functions, how they get revised, right, in a
Hmm.
post AI world. Also being in housing and housing finance and mortgage, mortgage tends to lag, a bit behind uh, where the technology capabilities are, and the technology industry is, because of being a highly regulated industry.
Sure.
We
Yeah.
we have this 5 to 10 year lag
Hmm.
behind what's out there. So a lot of what's already happened in other industries is potentially, you know, going to happen, here, um, which is disruptive. So my hope is that I could be a part of helping define, um, ways for people to thrive in that post-disrupted state, right?
Yeah, for
So if it's
sure.
AI, if it's AI that's going to really drastically change the way some job functions work, I would hope that I could help define, the human part that's important no matter what, and then, help people continue to move, across that bridge.
Oh, I love that. And bonus points for using bridge between in a sentence. And you're talking about being the bridge between where things are now and this disrupted future, which is inevitable. And like you said, even with mortgage that may be lagging a little behind, but it's coming. What are some of the ways that you can see? Like you said, there's some jobs that, like, there's a human part of it that can never be replaced by AI. What are some of the things that you tell people who are concerned about the influence of AI in your industry?
Yeah. I've been inspired a lot lately by there's some great recent posts from Sol Rashidi. I'll steal. She was one of the early IBM Watson people in the AI front, and
Hmm.
she talks about, you know, the the need for AI being able to solve things that are too dull, too mind-numbing, and solve the things that are too difficult, as two of them. It also goes into like solving things that are too dangerous for people to do, or conditions
Mm,
that are too
yeah.
toxic. But the two that I really hone into, right, for our industry especially, is like removing the dull, uh, you know, mind-numbing tasks, copy-paste tasks, and then removing um, or finding a way to really enable complex decisions. And housing is very complex, right? It's we've got these monumental challenges in front of us. How do you reduce the cost of getting a mortgage? How do you make um, home buying more affordable?
Mm-hmm.
How do you generate enough supply? Um, and streamline that. If we lean into AI to do those things, I don't want to be trite about saying it's not going to like replace people's jobs or whatever. I almost think that's the wrong discussion to have with AI. The focus is not on like trying to do it in a way that replaces or doesn't replace people's jobs. The idea is that if we do it, I think in the right way, it will
Mm-hmm.
actually create more things that we can tackle and need to do than we could do today. And so we'll need the same amount of people. It's just we'll
Mm-hmm.
be solving more complex problems
Right.
and we'll be freeing people up to think about the the part that matters, which is the mission.
Mm-hmm.
Actually providing a way to get more people into homes and then being able to stay in their homes in a more sustainable way.
Right.
Um, so yeah, that's my hope that this is really about thinking what that world looks like,
Mm-hmm.
and thinking what problems we could tackle or should tackle, based on capabilities, with AI.
Brilliant. Is there a question that you ask yourself to stay in that mindset, or a question that you pose to others to help them reframe it in that way, that it's not about losing jobs, gaining jobs, but it's more about like how can it be a catalyst to further advance the mission?
Yeah, I ask myself a lot, like, well, what will this look like if it is disrupted? So instead of like fighting against, no, no, let's not let it happen, let's fight against it or whatever, it's like I try to think about, well, what if I just accepted the fact that this function's going to get disrupted?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what could it look like? What should it look like that would create the most benefit,
Mm-hmm.
in the future? And trust that if we do it the right way, that, you know, more opportunities are going to be created to do more good things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I ask myself that a lot. What what will it look like,
Mm-hmm.
assuming it's going to be disrupted?
Yeah.
Uh, um,
Yeah,
you
safe
know,
assumption.
yeah,
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 but I mean
yeah,
that's a growth mindset question, right? That's a like a I wonder, and how can we, and what will this, like those are anticipating change in a way that is, I would say, like wise and collaborative, because hopefully you're thinking about those things, but then having those discussions with others who are also grappling with some of those realities, and they've got other intel or perspectives on things that are going to help to shape that. And I do think that that's how we're going to bridge the gap and get to a place where we can have greater productivity, where people don't have to do mundane, boring tasks like certain research or writing or copying, pasting, or, policy making or whatever. And they can get into the more like application of this, and how can this be, somehow a multiplier for
yeah,
others. I think those
yeah.
are higher quality questions for us to ask.
Yeah, the worst place for us to be would be if we've taken a completely defensive posture about something and just tried to protect the way things are, and then we're
Hmm.
wholly unprepared, you know, when right when that massive change happens.
Yes.
And whereas if we start preparing for it now and envisioning how that could have the best outcome,
Hmm.
we'd be, I think, in a better spot. And if the disruption doesn't happen, we're already anyway thinking about how to improve
Hmm. How to
that
make it
role,
better.
improve that function, improve the outcome. So,
Right.
yeah,
And I think we have that sensibility in some things in our lives. Like, let's just say you're a new parent and you're preparing to have a child, or you're going on a vacation and you're preparing for that, or you're getting a new role in your organization. And, so like we know what that feels like, and the utility of thinking that way is. I just wonder what the gap is here and why there's so much fear. Maybe because it's more unknown. I think it's like the introduction of the internet or even social media, some of those things that people thought were going to be like not that big of a deal. And we all know the, the end of the story there, or a lot of the additional chapters of that story.
Right.
So yeah, I think that, the more we can help people to like lower the fear and increase the curiosity, the better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it totally makes sense why there would be fear associated with it because, we have machines now, um, entering into not just our uh, uh, quantitative tasks that we do, like calculations and predictions and the things we expect machines to do, but now they've entered, you know, creativity, the realm of creativity and language and music and art and image generation
Hmm.
and all of these things, and so it immediately connects our brains, to um, you know, to outcomes, you know, negative outcomes in areas that we thought were safe,
Hmm.
from
Hmm.
that we thought were
Protected.
purely
Yeah,
the domain of humans,
sure.
and we've all seen plenty of movies that kind of, back that up and
Hmm.
what might happen, which, um, so it makes sense, right?
Yeah,
But
totally makes sense.
you know,
Yeah.
but
I think
again, I
it's
think the
more
more that we
common to feel that way than to feel optimistic and
sure.
inspired. But I think, to your point, I think, for us to stay sane and productive, we've got to look for some of the upside.
Yeah, let's just lean more into the value that humans create and the value we can create for humans,
Hmm.
and elevate
Yeah,
that. That's the only thing we can do.
that's great. So, speaking of questions, do have some rapid fire questions for you. Some of them are hard, Keenan, but I know you're a creative and you're good on your feet. So here's one that I don't think is going to trip you up at all. None of them will really. But what's one leadership value you think the tech and real estate industries need more of right now?
I would say empathy.
Mm,
Everything we just talked about, the going through massive change, trying to put yourself in someone else's shoes that's going through that change is probably the one of the better things we could do.
mm, that's so spot on. How do you balance innovation with stability? We've been talking about all this disruption, innovation, and stability in an industry that impacts people's homes and livelihoods.
Lots and lots of testing, you know.
Mm,
One of our product managers use the phrase, at least with technology and AI, our fears can be tested, um, to see if they're actually, becoming true or not. And
hmm.
and so we should always test rigorously, new innovation before putting it out in
Hmm.
the wild to ensure stability.
Oh, I love that. Speaking of AI, what role do you think AI should play in the future of housing finance?
Well, I guess I'll say what I said before, which is I think it should remove the mundane tasks
Hmm.
to keep people from thinking about the actual end beneficiary, which I see as the homeowner or the borrower or home buyer. Um, and then I think that um, there is a opportunity to remove a lot of the subjectivity that's in today's processes, across the country,
Hmm.
certainly within appraisal. There's a lot of um, inconsistency and subjectivity that could be improved,
Hmm.
and using AI to solve something that massive across in all 50 states and the
Hmm.
territories is something we'd love to tackle.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so inspirational. What is a valuable piece of advice that you've received in your career, and who gave it to you?
I mean, I've received, gosh, so much great advice along the way. A pivotal part for me was I went to a like a pocket MBA, technical leadership program at UCLA. Um, because I had really struggled before that at trying to manage like other people. Like I tried to replicate my boss in my leadership style because I thought that if I did it like them, I would be trusted to,
Yeah,
to do more or whatever. And I
totally.
realized that I really suck at being someone else. Um, that I will basically only fail if I'm trying to be someone else. And so what I learned through that program was how to understand who I am better and my own personality and what comes naturally to me, and then like be authentic. And so, sounds like a no duh thing like now,
No,
but for me,
I
like the revelation at the time that like I
yeah.
can't please people by trying to be them. I actually just have to be myself, and for
Hmm.
all its good and bad and everything, and I'll have a lot better shot at being good at me.
Yes. Oh, and you do that so well. Thank God, Keenan. So, on that, if your leadership style were a genre of music, what would it be? And I follow you on
Uh,
Spotify, and everybody needs to follow you on Spotify.
I
I like Sunday, by the way.
oh, thank you.
Yeah.
My
So
team will
good.
laugh because I do randomly, sing throughout the day.
Mhm.
Not in the morning. I'm not a morning person. But in the afternoon, I'll sing and dance and stuff. So I would go ahead and go with some electronic music, some like melodic house,
Yes.
because there's sporadic singing, but it's
Hmm.
pretty chill and mellow. You can listen to it as background music or you can dance. It's up to you. So there you
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
go.
It's your go-to. It's good. I love that. That's such a good answer, and it's reflected in your music creation. What's your go-to coffee order on a high-stakes strategy day?
Ooh. I'm gonna have to go with a dirty chai.
Oh, what's the
Uh,
dirty chai?
it's like two espresso shots added to a chai latte is where I'll go.
Oh,
I need
wow.
it's like it's got tea, it's got coffee,
Yum.
it's a little bit spicy.
Yeah. So
I'll
that's like a
definitely need
before
that. So
3 p.m. kind of thing, right? Because that sounds like like a real booster.
I will drink caffeine at any time of the day or night.
Okay. All right.
Uh, yeah, it's not good, but I,
No,
I'm I'll do it. Yeah.
guilty. I hear you. I'm gonna try that though. My next big day, I'm gonna take a trip and go pick that up. So if you had to explain AI to a kindergartner and ideally in rhyme, how would you start?
Smart people teach machines to think. They answer questions in a blink. But don't you worry, 'cause you're unique. You can inspire when you speak.
Yay! All right. This is going to go on your next LP. That's awesome. So good. Thank you. We're going to share that loud with everyone. So you've been in industry for 20 plus years. What's one piece of outdated tech that you secretly miss? And be honest with this.
The first thing that came to mind for some reason is like I'm dating myself, is cassette tapes.
Yeah. Okay.
I
What did you like
I
about them?
um I like the idea of same thing with maybe why we like vinyl, like albums. I like that there's a side.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a side A and a side B.
Mm-hmm.
It it helped, break up the, listening to an album and like I don't know, it just changed our whole listening experience when there's like one side and you have to go to another side, you have
Yeah.
to flip something over. That
Right. I,
physical interaction with it.
and
Yeah.
stacking them up. Yep. And like which
Yeah,
ones are you
which
gonna bring on a road trip, you know?
right.
Yeah. And I also think then this doesn't happen anymore, but I used to hear a song and I would know what the next song's going to be because it was whatever was next on my tape. But now because it's always like this random shuffle, like you never really know. I guess unless you set up a playlist and
Yeah.
you listen to it that way. But did you ever
Yeah.
make tapes for friends where you like put tape over the two dimples at the top so you could like tape over things? Yeah.
Absolutely.
That was like a gift for people that, you really love. You're going to like bother to listen to the radio and record.
Exactly.
I'm
And
with you.
It's renewable, reusable, sustainable. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like you use that
Hmm.
same tape over to the point where like if you did it enough, you could hear
It was,
the last thing that
yeah,
faintly,
yeah, vaguely. It was like
vaguely
hanging
it was like
on.
there's something little something in there. What is that?
I miss the BlackBerry. I'm not gonna lie. I like
Oh,
the keyboard on the BlackBerry because you could just not even look at it and type. I mean,
yeah,
and it just was small. It's not as good as my iPhone, but I did really like my BlackBerry a lot.
yeah.
Yes. Oh, well, thank you so much for spending your precious time with us and sharing your wisdom, giving us something to aspire toward, and by leading for example, and leading by example. That's one of the things I appreciate most about you is your ability to lead by example and do that with authenticity. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on and doing this amazing podcast. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to ROG, Return on Generosity Podcast. Please help us grow by subscribing and reviewing us on your favorite podcast player. And for more information, visit bridgebetween.com. We grow when we give.
우리는 나누면서 성숙합니다.
We grow when we give.
On rayonne quand on donne.
We grow when we give.